What are we doing to stop American weapons going to Mexico to arm their gangs?
Well, we need to support that on both sides.
Well, what are you doing? What are you doing to support it on our side?
We are arresting people who have illegal firearms in our country. We're not sending people back to Mexico with guns. We're throwing them in our jails. And
No, you're allowing them to be purchased in the United States and driven across the border. Most of these gangs have completely turned themselves into military organizations because they're using American weapons, American technology, and your argument is that, well, we're not doing anything about them.
No, not my argument. That was a policy of the last 4 years of the Biden administration with open borders. You could come back and forth across our borders. You could buy guns. You could take guns off the...
Reed asks one simple question. Why are American guns ending up in the hands of Mexican cartels? And instead of answering, Pam Bondi does what she always does. Deny, deflect, and dodge, because the moment she acknowledges the truth, the entire narrative falls apart.
Madam Attorney General, on May 16th, the Department of Justice announced that it dropped litigation to enforce the law against forced reset triggers. These are devices that can be installed in a few minutes on guns like a AR-15 in order to match the rate of fire of a machine gun. In fact, according to demonstrations on YouTube and elsewhere, you can dispose of an entire 30-round magazine in about 4 seconds. So it is a fully automatic weapon. In the press release announcing the settlement, you are quoted as saying the settlement, quote, will enhance public safety. How does putting more automatic weapons, which have been against the law since the 1930s, enhance public safety?
Thank you for that question, Senator Reed. What that will do, it will enhance public safety by settling the litigation, because it is a guarantee that the manufacturer will not put that in handguns. We settled those cases because it was the right decision under the law, but nothing's comical about this. These devices are materially the same as bump stocks. The Supreme Court said last year that they are not machine guns under federal law. We followed the law. We will continue to follow the law. I'm a career prosecutor. I'm going to do everything in my power to keep Americans safe. What we should be concerned about up here are all the illegal guns flowing into our country by illegal aliens who have been free to walk into our country over the past 4 years. And we've taken thousands of those guns off of the street, including drugs,
How can you go ahead?
Violent criminals.
Excuse me. How can you go ahead and say we're more safe today because they will not put these automatic firing devices in pistols, which have magazines of about maybe 20 rounds at most, or maybe 10, and have a range much less than an automatic weapon? Have you ever fired an automatic weapon?
I have.
Well, you understand then that that's a device that was designed to kill people. It's not a hunting rifle. It's not a target rifle. It's mass fire. And you made a compromise saying, well, don't put them in pistols, but you can go ahead and put them out in automatic weapons.
We followed the law. We will continue to follow the law. You and I clearly disagree on the Second Amendment.
Well, I agree that machine guns are not appropriate in the United States, and since 1930 or so, we've outlawed machine guns. And these semi-automatic weapons that are produced in volume are so easily converted to automatic weapons that you're ignoring the reality, frankly.
I'm following the law, Senator.
Well, yes, that's right. By the way, how many American weapons are going into Mexico in a year? What are we doing to stop American weapons going to Mexico to arm their gangs?
Well, we need to support that on both sides.
Well, what are you doing? What are you doing to support it on our side?
We are arresting people who have illegal firearms in our country. We're not sending people back to Mexico with guns. We're throwing them in our jails. And
No, you're allowing them to be purchased in the United States and driven across the border. Most of these gangs have completely turned themselves into military organizations because they're using American weapons, American technology, and your argument is that, well, we're not doing anything about them.
No, not my argument. That was a policy of the last 4 years of the Biden administration with open borders. You could come back and forth across our borders. You could buy guns. You could take guns off the street. You could shoot people in our country. You could bring fentanyl into our country. You could bring methamphetamine into our country. You could bring cocaine into our country. That was the previous administration.
No,
not this.
What are you doing to stop the flow of weapons into Mexico?
We are arresting flow of weapons into. Our borders are closed. We are arresting illegal
Oh, really?
cartels. Sinaloa from Mexico, MS-13 from El Salvador, TDA. We are arresting from Venezuela. ATF has seized over 14,600 guns since Donald Trump has been president. That's a 33% increase from the last administration. And think about that. That's why our borders are secure.
Were they coming in?
They weren't doing anything.
Were they coming into the United States?
Our borders are closed. They're not coming in or out of the United States now across Mexico. We've done a 33% increase in firearm seizures. So think about that. Think about that, Senator, from the last administration. 33% increase. And our borders are closed. So we're getting all these guns off the streets that came into our country. And I'm so proud of the work of the men and women in law enforcement.
I don't think you've done anything to severely interrupt the arming of Mexican gangs, because that's really not what your focus, and I think your focus should be on that. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And can I just add one thing? And
No,
because
excuse
the
me.
borders are closed, we are stopping the guns from going to Mexico.
Well, let me ask you another question. If the borders are closed, why do we have a division headquarters of the United States Army in Fort Huachuca and military elements across the board when the border's closed and Border Patrol can handle it?
As former military, I would think you would know the answer to that, to keep Americans safe.
No, I think it's to promote the president's policies on the border and the readiness of our forces are suffering.
Senator Jack Reed didn't walk into that hearing room to create a viral clip. There were no flashy sound bites, no dramatic gestures, just a quiet, steady presence. But what happened next turned into one of the most talked about exchanges of the week. Because Reed isn't just another senator with a microphone. He's a man who has spent decades watching the consequences of bad policy unfold, not in headlines, but in the lives of real people. In neighborhoods struggling to get by, in communities affected by decisions made thousands of miles away, in war zones where mistakes cost human lives, and in families who feel the impact long after the cameras are gone. When he sat down across from Pam Bondi, it wasn't just another political conversation. It was a confrontation between experience and spin, and the reason this exchange hit differently is simple. Reed wasn't trying to win an argument. He was trying to defend the truth, a truth he's watched erode. Piece by piece, every time politics becomes more about performance than responsibility, Bondi came into the hearing with the same polished talking points she's used for years. Well-practiced, confident, ready to push a narrative she'd repeated on television countless times. But Reed wasn't interested in political theater. He listened, patiently, and then with the kind of calm that only comes from someone who has nothing to prove, he dismantled the argument piece by piece. You could tell he wasn't angry, he was disappointed. Because when you've spent your life dealing with the real aftermath of policy failures, the soldiers who don't come home, the families left behind, the communities reshaped by decisions made far away, you learn to recognize when someone is treating a serious issue like a game. And that's why the clip exploded online. Not because Reed delivered a dramatic zinger, not because he raised his voice or put on a show, but because his frustration was real, authentic, human. In a political environment filled with noise, his clarity stood out. This wasn't about left versus right, it was about responsibility versus recklessness. The moment he pushed back, you could almost feel the shift in the room. Not loud, not explosive, just a simple, powerful message. Enough. Stop playing games with people's lives, and that message resonated across social media because people are tired. Tired of politics that ignores the impact on regular Americans. So no, Jack Reed didn't walk into that hearing looking for attention. But by standing firm, by refusing to let misinformation slide, and by speaking from a lifetime of real-world experience, he reminded everyone that public service can still mean something. And sometimes a quiet voice delivers the loudest message.